Well, it's the day of the first semi-final. Eurovision 2023 is finally here, and it's time to make some predictions about who's going to be qualifying from the semi-final. Now, I've been pretty conservative about talking about qualifiers up to now, but that ends today because I now have about as much information as I'm ever going to get about how the songs actually feel through the camera and which ones are having the most impact in my point of view. And so let's dive into the songs from semi-final 1. We start off with Norway, and I don't really think there's much else to say about Norway that hasn't already been said. It looks great, it sounds great, it's, from a conceptual point of view, the same as the national selection performance. I would say the key difference is that the empty space that was there is filled out by the LEDs. It doesn't feel quite as dark, and overall, it's giving the Eurovision crowd the kind of thing that they come for, so I feel pretty confident that this is going through. In fact, I would say this is definitely going through. After that, we have our stretch of songs that are early in the running order that have a lot of really passionate fans behind them, but I think we all know that we're definitely not going to be making it through with all of these songs, but I do think that at least one of them has a chance, and it could be any one of these. So Malta has really upped their game from the national selection performance, but still keeping that like DIY feel to it. It's like expensive DIY, which makes no sense, but I think that they've done a really good job in making this a visual experience. The one kind of area of concern, apart from all of the other things that are already a concern about where this song is in the show and how it compares to others, would be the fact that in the first rehearsal from yesterday, Dav Jr. was a little bit stiff, didn't fully have a full voice, and I know that he's singing in kind of a breathy way throughout, but it just felt a little bit restrained, and in order for it to bring the party, it needs to be energetic and needs to be a little bit more full. For the second performance with the crowd, it was a bit better, so I do think that that might not be as much of an issue here. And there is a little bit of a twist at the end, which I don't know if this has been revealed already, but I won't say anything about it for those of you who really like this song, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Serbia has also elevated their performance from the national selection. It just looks a lot cleaner and fuller and more well orchestrated. Conceptually, again, it's the same kind of idea, but just, bigger. One thing that I felt when watching this for the first time yesterday was that it cements itself as a one-of-a-kind entry of the year, and that could mean good things for it. The things working against it are, again, being early in the running order and perhaps being a bit too conceptual. Maybe people won't fully get what they're going after, and for that reason, it might not make it through, but I definitely feel more confident about this one when compared to some others. Then we have Latvia, which, much like Norway, has filled out some of the empty space in their performance and has made it feel a lot more full. I have to say, they're also really giving it everything. I don't know what it was specifically, but when watching it, it just felt a lot more emotionally impactful, like more than I've ever felt it. And I don't think, even though, again, we think of this one as being early in the running order, being a bit niche, and perhaps not having the fullest appeal for the Eurovision crowd, I don't think that it's a done deal. I think that there is a path forward for this one, which is a better assessment than I gave earlier this year. Following that, we have Portugal. One of the discussions about Portugal this year has been, as Mimikat has revealed, this is a plan B. They didn't really like the projections, the use of the LEDs when they were looking at the technical rehearsals, so they decided to scrap them. And now the cabaret feeling really comes from the artists on stage. Personally, I like that it's a bit more of a nod to cabaret rather than it being like an indulgence. I can understand why for some people it doesn't live up to their expectations, but I feel like the song is really sold on Mimikat's performance, her incredible voice and charisma. I think that's what people are going to respond to, and I definitely feel more confident about this qualifying than not qualifying. Ireland, on the other hand, I wish I had more good things to say about it, but the overall feeling that I got from it yesterday was that it just comes across as a bit awkward. Much like last year with Ireland, I feel like once again there's this mismatch between how it looks and how it sounds. The aesthetic that they've gone with isn't necessarily bad, it just, I think, downgrades the song. I feel like the song should have felt more like a rock performance, and I couldn't imagine any rock band going on stage with that amount of glitter and gold sparkles. We follow with Croatia, which has an immediate WTF factor off the top, and I think that they've really done a good job with this. And although it's still quite chaotic when compared to the Dora performance, it's tighter, and we kind of expect that to happen at Eurovision, that it's not going to be just kind of these swaying cameras moving around. It works a lot better, I would say, and I think that this is going through. The only area of doubt that I have is that Croatia's neighbor Serbia, which is often one that they depend depend on in Eurovision because of recent tragedies involving school shootings. They might not be as willing to support a song like this. They might be feeling something else, but whether or not that would really make a big difference, because I'm sure they're going to throw them points anyway, is yet to be seen. And then in another kind of mood shift from the previous two songs, we have Switzerland, which is very, very tight, very well put together. The kind of thing that we expect from Sacha Jean-Baptiste, but it doesn't feel too typical of what she does. It has her spirit there, but it's not quite as obvious what's going on there. Very effective use of the light combined with the smoke. I really like also the subtle falling fireworks to give the impact of like bombs falling or, you know, being in a war zone. Remo is also vocally flawless, so this is a high quality entry. Whether or not it's going to be that loved by the televote is really my only area of doubt, but I definitely feel more like this is qualifying than not qualifying. Then we have Israel, who is bringing something that a lot of people come to Eurovision for, which is a really tightly executed dance pop performance. And although it's done quite well, I do think that for the most part it's quite familiar to other dance pop performances that we've seen from Israel. There's just a certain style and approach that feels consistent with like Michael Ben David and Eden Aline and maybe even Imri going that far back. There's also a pretty shameless use of the backing track at the very end, which this is the kind of thing that I really, really wish that Eurovision would do away with. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but it's a bit too much backing track, you know? Like, it is a song contest. People should be singing the songs. But because it's catering to the Eurovision crowd and doing it in a pretty effective way, I think this could easily be in the top 3 in the semi-final. When we get to the final, we'll see if the story changes. Moldova's song is also catering to the Eurovision crowd, I would say. It's bringing that kind of folk electronic fusion that people have been really excited about, and doing so in a very characteristically Moldovan way when we think about how they approach Eurovision. One thing that I really liked is the dialogue between Pasha and the flautist, and I'm talking about like a theatrical dialogue, not like, you know, speaking. It's just one of the more visually interesting parts of the song. I do think that it lacks an effective climax, unfortunately, and I don't know if that's going to have that much of an impact on the score. I just feel like we need to be either seeing something or hearing something that kind of cements this as the most exciting moment in the song. After that, we have Sweden, which obviously there's so many things that could be said about Sweden and that have been said about Sweden. What I'll leave it at for now is, if you've seen the Melfest performance, this might not have the exact same impact, but for fresh eyes who haven't seen that earlier performance, I think that they're gonna like it just as much. It's really effective. Loreena's performing just as excellently as ever, and this is definitely still in contention for the win. We follow that with Azerbaijan, who I think from a performance point of view, they're doing pretty well. They're harmonizing. It's, you know, pleasant to listen to. The aesthetics don't really do anything to elevate it, I have to say. It's just not all that interesting because it's, you know, them standing on a broken heart, you know, some lighting changes in the back, and then a lot of split screening, and at times there's like black and white filters. And following something like Sweden, which is obviously very impressive and very impactful, it just makes me wonder if people are going to be still processing that while this is going on and not really paying attention to it. And so this is definitely one that I don't see in the final, but with Azerbaijan, you really never know. After that, we have Czechia, which is an entry that I've been a bit skeptical of in the past, just to know if it was going to be that effective. But the one thing that I know about the Czech Republic is that they really know how to stage, and this is no exception. It just feels to me that like everything was really well thought out, from the color palette to the styling to the use of LEDs to the blocking. It's all very effective and very tasteful, and I think this should be enough to get Czechia to the final. We then have the Netherlands, who have come into this competition with, unfortunately, quite a bit of criticism from their home country. Certain pre-party performances haven't gone as well as expected, and people have been wondering whether or not they were the best choice to represent the country. Now, I really feel like they've done an excellent job in elevating this. Mia and Dion feel a lot more comfortable performing the song, and the approach to the cinematography is so effective. It's very subtle. This is like a masterclass in making something that is minimal but elegant and feels really cinematic with the lighting and the camera work. Now, with respect to the song, I've never been that keen on the end of it. It doesn't feel like the climax that it needs to have, and I do feel like when watching it, it loses a bit of steam, and so therefore I'm not as confident that this is going to be saved for qualification, but I do really commend the effort that's been put into this, and I would put them on par with Latvia for, maybe not having the best chances at making it to the final, but really giving it everything they've got. And then we end with Finland, who is obviously a huge fan favorite and one that people would like to see win this contest. And I have a bit of concern, not with respect to qualification. This is definitely qualifying. It could even still win the semifinal. But based on the two rehearsals that we saw yesterday, the performance kind of falls apart towards the end. What I think happened was that Käärijä went a little bit too hard at the start, and by the time that he has to actually sing, he's just a little bit too out of control, and it doesn't sound very good, which hurts me to say because I really like this song, and although I'm a big fan of Sweden, I would love to see this win as well. And so my hope is that that will change for Saturday, but if it doesn't, then I think we really need to rethink how likely it is that Finland is going to be winning. So those are my general thoughts, and now I guess it's time to actually, throw the chips down and actually say who's going to be qualifying and not qualifying from my point of view. So the songs that I think won't be qualifying are Ireland, Azerbaijan, Malta, Latvia, and the Netherlands. Which means that the songs that I think will qualify will be Norway, Serbia, Portugal, Croatia, Switzerland, Israel, Moldova, Sweden, Czechia, and Finland. Let me know in the comments whether or not you agree. Do you think that maybe some of the songs that I've put as non-qualifiers are definitely going through? I'd love to know what you have to say. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel so that we can keep talking about Eurovision as it happens, because it's happening right now. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.